Well, shortly we'll speak to Advocate Paul Hoffman from Accountability Now. Also on the story, for those of you just joining us, a big story out of the High Court in the Free State today. The judge saying that the NPA basically did not extradite Ace Magashule, the former Free State Premier, his former personal assistant Muradi Chalota, in a way that met the legal test for extradition. In fact, the words he used was that Ms. Chalota, you are free to go. Let's bring in Advocate Paul Hoffman. Good to have you on the SABC, Advocate. When you look at this latest court defeat for the NPA, who ultimately should bear responsibility?
Well, it's the NPA's decision that has been criticized by the judge, because the decision to ask for extradition should have been sourced in the Department of Justice and not in the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions in the Free State. So they got it wrong, but I think we must be fair to them. It's a process that's been followed for a long time without any objection, until quite recently, when the Supreme Court of Appeal decided that when a challenge appeared before it, it decided that this a procedure is one that falls in the purview of the Department of Justice rather than in the hands of the Director of Public Prosecutions in the Free State.
So to be clear, Advocate Hoffman, what you're saying basically to everyone watching this evening is that no one within the NPA should ultimately be made to face any sort of consequence for what is a costly legal defeat when you consider how much was put around Chalota's participation in this corruption case against her former boss, Ace Magashule, and his co-accused in the asbestos matter.
Yes, they are talking. I see in the media that they are talking about taking this on appeal, and if the appeal is successful, then there won't be consequences for it. But if the appeal is not successful, then we are in a situation in which the NPA's decision to ask the American authorities to extradite Ms. Chalota the cost of it will fall on the South African taxpayer.
So if it is true, Advocate Hoffman, that the NPA basically misled its counterparts in the United States, the Justice Minister talking to us a short time ago has been given a briefing, and I'm paraphrasing, to the effect that the NPA disagrees with any such assertion still. If it is found to have been true, though, at the end of this 2 weeks that she's given to the prosecutors to come up with a response, can we write it off as a simple or innocent mistake, or is this basically tantamount to malpractice? And if it is the latter, what then should happen?
Yes, well, if it's malpractice, heads will roll, or should roll. And if it's simply a question of following a procedure that's been followed for a long time, that has recently been overturned by the Supreme Court of Appeal, then I don't think that following standard process would necessarily lead to serious disciplinary consequences for those involved.
How solid is the state's case against Magashule in particular, because Chalota was his personal assistant at the time when he's alleged to have been involved in this asbestos tender corruption? How solid is the case without her against him?
I don't think it's going to make any difference. They would have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Ace Magashule was involved in the corruption that they've charged him with, and whether or not she is a co-accused is neither here nor there. She wouldn't have to give evidence against Ace Magashule in her capacity as a co-accused in the matter. She's not a compatible
But she's
witness.
got no interest in testifying. In fact, she went as far as accusing the NPA in the last few months of basically abusing her, I'm paraphrasing once again, because she did not want to give evidence incriminating Ace Magashule, because she still says she has no involvement of any level of wrongdoing on his part in this matter. So if she's not a key part of the case, why is it in the interest of the NPA then to take this on appeal?
Well, they'll want to take it on appeal in order to defend the procedure that they followed. Remember, this is a procedural finding. The judge has said to the young lady, you're free to go home. You're not an accused before this court, and you couldn't be an accused before this court because you have been illegally extradited from America. And that being so, whether or not she was actually involved in the asbestos roofing problems is something that is neither here nor there as far as she is concerned, because she is not properly before the court, having been extradited in a manner that was not procedurally sound.
We were just speaking with Justice Minister Kubai about the questions around the suitability of Advocate Shamila Batohi, the National Director of Public Prosecutions, to remain in the position, given that to date there hasn't been any major success in prosecuting the state capture cases, which were a big issue when she came into the role. Even in matters like the Omatosha matter, the NPA has faced public embarrassment on that as well. How much do you think the events, the failures, in fact, perhaps, in the many cases that are public-facing, if I can phrase it in that way, will reflect on her legacy? And is it time for her to go? Are those calls justified?
Well, it's almost time for her to go, because her term of office expires in January, which is just around the corner.
I mean, before that, Advocate Hoffman, is it time for her to go as soon as tonight or tomorrow, is the demand?
Yeah, I don't see that happening. The NPA is blamed a lot for the political side of its lack of capacity. If you enter a Volkswagen Beetle in a Grand Prix race against Ferraris and McLarens and Mercedes-Benzes, you cannot expect it to win. And that is, in fact, what is happening in the view of Paul Pretorius, who was the evidence leader in the state capture inquiry. He sees the NPA as a Volkswagen racing against Formula One cars, and the Formula One cars are all owned and driven by those involved in corruption, and the NPA is left in the dust because it does not have the wherewithal, the skills and the resources to do its job as the law requires.
Advocate Paul Hoffman, good to talk to you, Director at Accountability Now.